everybody. So you might remember a while ago I did a walkthrough of my financial spread that I use in my bullet journal. And I just wanted to do kind of an update because I actually have sort of adapted and expanded my system to include what is now in my home bullet journal. So first, let's take a quick look. I want to show you sort of how I use my financial spread and my home bullet journal to kind of deal with my budgeting needs. So first up, we have my current financial spread, which if you saw the last video, you'll see that it is basically the exact same setup. This actually works really well for me just to kind of have an overview. So what I've got here, and I hope you'll excuse my little washi tape censoring, if you will. I have some personal information on here. So I've got my expenses. So I have all of my main expenses that come out every single month. The only thing that is not on here are groceries, which are obviously a fairly large expense. And I have incorporated that into the budget that I have in my home bullet journal. So you'll see that. But these are things that are direct withdrawal from my account. So you'll see that these expenses also match up, with the exception of this one. These expenses match up with my bills. And this is just so that I know when they come out, I can double check that they actually were taken out that month. I can also see, for example, my cell phone bill has came out twice this month, which it's been like the way that they do it is kind of weird, but so I kind of keep track of that just so that I know, like, okay, yeah, it's come out. Oh, it was a bit earlier than last month or whatever. Just this gives me sort of an overview. These are owed or pending payments. So once it's been paid or I pay someone the money, I cross it off. And if it's still open, I leave the dot like so. I've also got my finances, so my income for each month. And these are actually based off of either I have private classes that I get paid in cash. So that's the one that I just do the check at the end of the month saying that that is the actual amount that I've received. I also have some that are direct deposit, and I just write down the day that they were deposited and the amount. And I do that for each month. So you'll see I've got all of them pre-set up, and then I just fill in what my income is because my income sometimes changes in the summer. So that's why I haven't filled in what that is actually. So this is what I have with me all the time in my bullet journal. That's kind of my monthly overview. So one thing I did on top of that was I really wanted to sort of sit down and see where I was, where I wanted to be, and how I could actually improve my budget. So this is the spread that I made in my home bullet journal. And again, I've got my little censoring tapes. So we're going to focus in. So basically, I sat down in April. So you will notice that I actually did label the months so that when I go back, and if I'm planning to do this either every quarter, every trimester, every half year, I'm not really sure yet, but at least this way I know when I actually sat down and did this, so that I can then have a comparison when I do the next one. So this is my monthly expenses for everything, because in my bullet journal, the only expenses I have are the ones that come out of my French bank account. But I also have a couple that come out of my American account. So you'll see here I've got euros, dollars, and I have them bunched, like all grouped together. So I've got basically all the same expenses, but I have actually added in groceries. And this is, again, it's not an exact number every month, unlike the rest of them. So it's just, I noted for myself that was the ideal amount that I wanted to put in. And then I have down here, these are all of my American account expenses. So the first line under here is per month, and then I just multiplied it by 12 under here to get the per year, and I labeled that. Next, I have other expenses. So these are either they come out yearly, they're not as frequent, they're not as exact dollar amounts. So for example, I use a budgeting software that I actually pay for because I used to use free software and I didn't actually use it. I need a little bit of incentive to keep up with this, so I count that as a kind of necessary expenditure. I've got French taxes, my bank charges me to actually have an account with them, so clothing, emergency fund, summer fund because I actually don't get paid during the summer currently, so I need to save up during the year and I need to know about how much I need to survive in the summer. Retirement, obviously very important. And I've got the definite amount, so things that I definitely know what come out, and then the ideal. So for example, the ideal is going to be things like the emergency fund and the retirement, because if I don't make as much money as I need to actually hit my goals for that, then obviously I'm not going to budget quite that much. So I kind of gave myself a range of how much I wanted to be, either how much I wanted to save or about how much I would be spending per year. The third part, let's see if I can actually get this, is quality of life. And these actually left these open because these are just ballpark. I went on the high end. So no, I do not spend $4,000 on travel every year. I definitely don't spend anywhere near that much. But in an ideal world, if I got my budget and my finances in order, that is roughly the number I thought might be sufficient per year. Now, obviously, this is very, very ideal. And that's the same thing with cafes and dining out and my slush fund, which is for books and stationery. And this is actually, this for dollars is for my Kindle. Because I have a Kindle, so I like to buy ebooks, but I buy them from the American Amazon store because obviously I tend to read mostly in English. So this is kind of, if I get everything else sorted, then that is the number that I want to shoot for. So that's this left page. This is just kind of looking at all of my expenses. And then I did a taking stock. So again, this is budget versus what's actually going on, what I want to change. So the next time I go through and update this, I will update my budget in case things change, and I'll update where I currently am. So what I've got here is, let's see, zoom again. So I have my net worth. So I went through all of my accounts in euros and in dollars, and I added up what I currently had. I did the totals here, and then I actually, because the euro and the dollar are sort of similar, they're like, I think it's like 1 to 0.9 or so, I don't know, it always changes. But because they're close-ish, I actually just added them up to get a ballpark total for how much money I actually have to my name. And that was just kind of something for me to know. And then the most important thing is actually this bottom section. So I have the goals that I wanted to work on. And these are in no particular order. And you can see I've actually started working on this, and I can actually cross this off completely because I've been doing that all month. Yay. So this one, my grocery budget, I was spending consistently a bit more, and I wanted to kind of bring down my monthly budget. So I worked on it this past month, and I was close, but I'm actually going to do it again this month, and I'm going to cross this off because I did start it. My challenge, I don't think it is possible for me to only spend $150 on groceries, but you never know. I'm going to see if I can hit this range first before I go for that. I did my impulse spending, so I actually did the April to May challenge because it actually straddled the 2 months, and I can do a partial cross off here, but I'm still working on this. I haven't set up a new challenge for this in my bullet journal, but it's kind of in the back of my mind, and if I find myself slipping, then I might set up an actual challenge page again, but we'll leave it there. So I'd like to raise the amount that I put in my automatic savings. So my bank account lets me every month take out a certain number of money that just goes directly into my savings. And I would like to eventually raise that. But again, because I don't have stable income in the summer, I'm probably not going to do that until a little bit later. I would like to save 10% of my income minimum, but I would like to eventually do a challenge to save 30 or 40%. I suspect this will probably be next school year once I start working again consistently. I want to contribute to retirement this year, and I want to look into side hustles, which I have sort of started on, so we're going to do one tick. So those are the big goals I've got right now. The next time I do a taking stock page like this, I will revisit the goals I currently have and add to them. The other thing I wanted to do was to really focus on what were my financial priorities. So the first thing is obviously to be able to survive in the summer. And I left these because these are just ballpark numbers for me to kind of aim for, but it's not actually necessarily private information, so you guys can see that. So I said I wanted to have about $3,000 for my summer fund. Now this is high. This is ideally what I can do. I can actually survive on less, but that was just to give me kind of something to aim for. I wanted to also do an emergency fund. Again, this is kind of best case scenario. So I'm going to start working on adding that in. I wanted to do at least $1,000 a year to retirement. Again, I would like to do more, but we'll start more modestly. And then once I get all three of those sorted out, then I want to start saving towards quality of life and other investment goals. So that was kind of my sitting down and seeing where I am, what I've got right now, what do I need to change to make these goals a reality. So the other thing to kind of figure out how I was doing on some of these goals, I set up my 2017 income. So this is actually different than the financial tracker that I have in my bullet journal because I based it on YNAB, which YNAB breaks down your month based on when you actually get paid. So a lot of my jobs, I actually get paid for the previous month in the next month. So the repartition of income per month is actually a little bit different, but everything is in the YNAB. So I actually just went to my income expense view, I guess, in my trends and budgeting, and they've got the analytics side. That's what it is. So I just basically went to that view and I just copied down the numbers that I had exactly there. And I also went into, for example, if somebody pays me back for something, or if I need to pay something out that I didn't necessarily note in my financial tracker, it's on here. So that's what the other category is for. And so I basically went through and I have the first 4 months of the year. And so I went through and I did a review of my first trimester. So I said, okay, my total income was this. Okay, so I added up all 4 months and I did my total income. I did my total saved, so whatever I currently had in my savings account when I did this, and I basically just divided it to find a percentage. And I actually was doing a little bit better than I thought I was, but obviously I can always improve on that. But that was just to give me an idea of, in the changes that I had made basically in April and the beginning of May, how had that affected how I was saving and how I was doing sort of in general. So again, this was just kind of my setup. I'm sure that there is other information that I could include, but I actually have been finding this really helpful. I do try and flip back to my goals and my priorities. And one thing that I also have started doing is on the month level, I actually include some money goals. So I had the first month that I did this was in May. And so I had my money goals here, and I haven't finished crossing everything off because I'm still waiting on some income from May to figure out how things are going. But basically I did goals in May, and I've also got my goals for June, somewhere back here. And basically I based my goals for June off of how I thought I was doing in May and sort of updated them. And so this kind of keeps my sort of budgeting goals and just my budget in general at the top of my mind so that I remember to actually work on it. Because when I first started using YNAB, I just kind of was tracking income and expenses and all of that, but I wasn't necessarily doing anything to actively improve how I was using my money. And so this system has really actually been helping me a lot. And it's nice to go back through and flip through and see this just to kind of remind myself that, there's a long way to go, but I'm actually not doing quite as poorly as I thought I was. And it's also nice to see just everything black and white and paper. It gives you a much better idea of what you're doing and where you're going. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. If you like this video, think about giving it a thumbs up and or subscribing to my channel. I try and post at least once a week, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.